So a warm welcome to Module 5 on Wellbeing. Wellbeing is very correlated to the Module 3 that we covered on resilience. So I'm going to start today by asking you a series of questions. So put your hand up if you've ever suffered from a debilitating disease or sickness. You've ever been heartbroken. You've ever been out of work, lost your job. Whether you've had to deal with financial difficulties, the loss of a loved one, been involved in a natural disaster, been depressed, been involved in an accident. So I guess after those questions, there are very few, if none of you, that actually don't have your hands raised. And that is because all of us in our lives are going to be affected by adversity. And adversity does not discriminate on age, wealth, profession, race, geographical location. All of us have to deal with some kind of adversity in our lives, and it is a facet of being a human being. One of the main things that we can look to develop that helps us through adversity is our own mental well-being. So today we're going to look and explore together a number of strategies and tools and techniques that can help enhance our mental well-being in the face of the adversities that we will face in the future. So one of the strategies that we can look at that help enhance our own mental well-being is recognising that shit happens. Look at the exercise that we've just run, where we looked at a number of different adversities and scenarios that I guess a number of us put our hands up and recognised that we had faced these kind of setbacks and adversities in life. So we can lean into that. Shit happens. We get this. We don't welcome it, but we recognise it's part of living, is being able to deal with these adversities as and when they hit us. And there, we've got to be careful, I think, at the moment in the environment that we live in, whereby there can be this sense of entitlement that is built out of the celebrity culture and the social media culture that we live in, is that we can compare and contrast our lives with other people's Facebook posts about how wonderful their own lives are. You don't tend to get many people on social media platforms that are saying actually how shit my life is. And so comparison, there's a lovely quote by Theodore Roosevelt that says, "Comparison is the thief of all joy." And what we tend to do is compare and contrast our inner feelings with other people's outward show. So we can look to enhance our mental well-being by just leaning into the fact that shit will happen, and we can be very, very aware of, are we comparing ourselves, our current life circumstances, unfavourably with other people's outward show. So while we don't welcome adversity, we recognise if we're going to try anything new in life, we're probably going to actually lean into the fact that we're going to make mistakes, things won't happen, things won't pan out the way we planned them. And there is a tool that we can use that can help us prepare for adversities and plan in front of them happening. And it's called a pre-mortem. Now, I guess a number of us have heard of something called a post-mortem. That is, unfortunately, an individual has died. They're on the slab in the mortuary, and the mortician is there looking at cutting them up and evaluating why they actually passed away. What we can do with a pre-mortem is look at anything we're planning to do and pretend it's died. So why did it die? Why did it crash and burn? Why did it fail? And we can then identify each of the failure points, whether it's been going for a promotion, running a new project, running a campaign at work. We can apply this to any walk of life. So we've attempted this and it's failed. Why? So we can preempt the failure points, identify them, and for each of those failure points we can then look at think, well, what can I do within our sphere of control and influence to prevent that happening? And if it did start to go wrong, what could I do to repair it? And we can build up our own self-fortitude and mental well-being with any facet of life by using this scenario plan, this pre-mortem approach. Selective attention is another strategy that we can use to help build our own mental well-being. And this is all around controlling the controllables. So back to our good friend CIA, control, influence, accept. So showing a radical acceptance to the adversities that have happened to us, because it is what it is, we are where we are, so we can't control or influence what has happened to us, only how we respond to what has happened to us. That is in the sphere of our control and influence, how we respond. So can we muster our mental energies, our skills, our knowledge, our proactivity to those things that we can positively control and influence, and show a radical acceptance to everything else. And this is recognising as well the other aspect to bring into consideration now is the negativity bias, which we mentioned in a previous module. The fact that we are hardwired to remembered bad experiences. And this comes from if I was a Stone Age man coming out of my cave in the morning and there was a beautiful rainbow up in the sky and there was a tiger 100 yards away, if I was to focus on the beautiful rainbow, I was taken out of the gene pool pretty quickly, and those genes didn't get passed on to the next generation. So over a millennia, we are now hardwired to remember the bad experiences that happen in life. And if you remember, we used the analogy in a previous module around Velcro. Our bad experiences stick to us like Velcro, and the good ones tend to bounce off like Teflon. So the key here is to then look at how we can help us retain the good, take in the good things that happen to us in life. And there are many. But as I say, we're not hardwired to remember those. So I'm going to now talk through a number of very simple tools and techniques that we can use and build into our lives that will help us actually take in the good. And the first one is a gratitude diary. So if you think about it, we are so fortunate to be living when we do live. If you go back 150 years, our ancestors, rather than flicking through Netflix, were wondering about how many rabbits can I capture and skin and put on the table to feed the family this evening. So we're really, really fortunate to be living when we do. So the whole essence of a gratitude diary is to have a notebook and actually write down 1, 2, 3 things that I've got to be really grateful for during any given day. And I'd like you to experiment with this. So hit the pause button on the video and just spend time and reflect on 3 things that you as an individual have got to be incredibly grateful for. It might be the small things, but focus on the things that you've got to be grateful for that have happened to you in the last 24 hours. And this builds into something that we call a rampage of appreciation. So in any given moment, can I show a rampage of appreciation for what life is presenting to me? And this is the small things that wouldn't normally stick. So a beautiful summer's day, it could be a cup of coffee that you're drinking. And just think about the process of getting a coffee from the beans, from wherever it comes from, shipped, packaged to you, stew and the hot water that's developed that comes out of our kettle. So it's just being very grateful for the small things, and this spirit of a rampage of appreciation can really help develop our own mental well-being. I don't know how many of you have got a to-do list, but what about turning that on its head and when you've finished work, having an I've done list? So writing down the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that you've accomplished during the day. And I don't mean necessarily a result of that, but the endeavour, the hard work that you've put in, part of the process, part of the journey, part of the progress that you've made towards something that you're trying to achieve. So, and I've done this, 1, 2 or 3 things that you can do at the end of each day that help you focus on the progress in small measures that you can bring your mind to. There is things like a random act of kindness or a planned act of kindness. So looking at these things that we can do, about letting somebody through in a supermarket queue. Being a more considerate driver, maybe letting people out. These small things, the science is really compelling about if we get in the spirit of showing random acts of kindness to fellow human beings, the impact it actually makes on our own mental well-being. Mindfulness is another tool that we mentioned in another module. Spending time each day, maybe 10 minutes, to be quiet and just focus on our own breathing builds up our own mental well-being. And finally, journaling. Looking at an A4 notebook and spending time, maybe 5-10 minutes each day, and whatever on your mind, writing it down on a piece of paper. There is something very therapeutic about getting things out of your mind and onto paper, So we've looked at the selective attention around focusing on control, influence, accept, making sure that our selective attention is focused on the things that we can control and influence, radically accepting the rest, understanding again the negativity bias that we're faced with, and the whole essence of a little toolkit that we can use to help build our own mental well-being. So the third of our strategies is an acronym, and it's called STOP. And it is a really impactful, simple acronym that we can use, that every time that we recognise that we're caught in a negative spiral, an action or behaviour which is not conducive to ourselves, we can use this acronym. The S stands for stop, so hit the emotional pause button. The T is for take a breath, so take a deep breath. And then observe. So observe our own thought process, our own action, our own behaviour, and then reflect on that. Is that helpful or harmful to me at this moment in time? And then if it's under the harmful bracket, let's look to think much more positively, replace it with a positive thought process, using maybe one of the tools and techniques that we've mentioned already in taking in the good, and then proceed. So this is a really useful, simple technique. It can be used in so many different facets of life, whether you're struggling with a relationship, whether you're struggling with a project, a promotion you're going for. Is this thought process, these actions, these behaviours that I'm demonstrating at this moment in time, are they helpful to me or are they harmful to me? And that really helps build our own self-awareness. And then we can proceed with a much more conducive thought process, positive thinking, as I say, a tool from taking in the good, and go about our day from there. We've looked at 3 broad brush strategies that will help us enhance our own mental well-being from whatever our start point. So we've looked at the fact that shit happens. So leaning into that and recognising it is just a facet of life, that it will happen to us. But what we can do is use the pre-mortem, the scenario planning. So by we can, in any aspect of life that we're looking to progress on, whether it be a project, whether it be a promotion, we can look at thinking about, well, what could go wrong, and we can work on the things that we can control and influence that helps us prepare for the adversities if and when they should strike. We've also looked at a selective focus and attention. So back to our old friend, the CIA, focusing on the things that we can control and influence, and recognizing that negativity bias comes into play as well, but using the selective attention to the things that are going to increase and enhance our mental well-being in those tactics in taking in the good. And then we've finally looked at this very simple model about my thoughts, my actions, my behaviours. Are they helpful or are they harmful to me? And we can use that stop button, the emotional pause button, to help us actually give us the space then to look at things that we can do with positive thinking and taking in the good, which will enhance our mental well-being moving forward. And what I would say is none of the material around mental training is easy. It represents a life's journey, so there's no magic bullet. And I think that we also need to demonstrate a sense of kindness and self-compassion to ourselves at the moment. We are all challenged in various ways as we move in, through, out and beyond the lockdown and the COVID-19 outbreak, and it is tough. But I do think fundamentally we can either let this crush us, we can survive it, or we can thrive and be stronger coming out the other side of that. And there is a quote that the Navy SEALs use that says, actually, under pressure, we don't rise to the occasion, we sink to the level of our preparation and training. And I'm hopeful that the material that we've presented within this video series can help us all thrive through the situation that we're faced with at the moment. So the next module is module 6. And that is the Q&A session, which will be run online. So have a look at the videos. They do stand multiple viewings. And look, if you've got any questions around the content, the applicability of the content, maybe some of the challenges that you might face or have faced trying to apply some of the knowledge, and we will look at answering those as best as we are able at the Q&A session.